Hello Pokemon pals, I'm back from the regionals and it occurred to me while I was at the event that a few people ask me whenever I get back, how do I see the results, Amy? And there were a couple of different methods, so I'm going to talk you through how to see the results of major tournaments, online events, Japanese events, which of course are in their own format, so please bear that in mind, and just generally how to find data on these sorts of events, deck lists, and kind of all of the positions of those decks in the meta in whatever moment it might be for you right now. If this changes, of course I'll give an update, but please join me for a minute while we have a look through this info together. So first up, you're going to want to load up limitlesstcg.com. Now this is a different website technically than Limitless TCG that we've used in the past to play in tournaments, which is Play Limitless. So they're different websites. You can get to Play Limitless from this website, but this is the one you're going to want to see the Western results of the most recent large events. So first up on the homepage, as you can see, we've got the top decks of this format, so you'll be able to click on these and have a little look at how they're doing. Now, let's just go with Raging Bolt because it's number one. Now, what it'll do is it won't show you a deck list on this screen, but it'll show you kind of the percentages of deck lists that include kind of 4 or 3 of X card. You can also hover over the card and get all of the essential information, and you can check via variant as well if you'd like to, so you can flick over and get information on slightly different variants of the deck as well. It also tells you kind of how much money people have won during that event, how many championship points, the regional position that it got, including how many wins, and so on and so forth. And then if you scroll down, you'll be able to see the specific deck lists based on the person and the date that happened. So of course we've just had the regionals in Lille here in France in Europe, and of course we had an 8th place with Anthony, and if I click this button here it will show his exact deck list, and of course we get that price breakdown, but again it's like including things like energy, which you can just go to your local game store and get for free. Like don't pay for energy, please, I beg. So again, I always find that this is a much higher total than is realistic in my opinion. I think a lot of these can be picked up for free or just like being nice to people or asking for trades. So again, we can see the most successful players with the deck, and we can look at the player rankings as well. Now obviously we can see the complete tournament history of these tournaments as well, but I find that there is a better breakdown of this. So if we head back to the front page here, we're going to click tournaments on the top bar, and now I can see via tournament how things went. So I can click on the regionals in Lille, and of course we get the exact standings and the deck that they were playing. And again, I can click here and I can see the full deck list, and I can hover over the cards. You can copy it to your clipboard and put that on TCG Live, so you can give the deck a go yourself. You can print proxies. If you click this, it'll just bring up a printable page for you, which is fantastic. You can open it as an image or open it in the card builder on this site. This little list here tells you who it's played by, and again, which person placed where. And again, this is this exact deck list, so if it even changes a little bit, obviously that will change. This little button here is one of my favorites, and I do feel like this is worth a shout out as well. This is the Metafy logo. That's what that means. So if I click this, it'll take me to James Cox's Metafy page. Now Metafy, we can have a quick diverge here onto Metafy, is metafy.gg is where you want to go. I'll put all of the links for all of these web pages down in the description. Now this is a great website if you'd like coaching on the decks that you've just seen. So if I click coaching and I click Pokemon, I'm not going to sign in, just show me please. But I can see all of the people who coach, and you'll notice some of these names. These are very, very big names in the Pokemon community here, and it'll kind of tell you what their price points are roughly, and also allow you to click on them. Let's go on Yella's account here, and oh, there we go, everything Gold and Go EX. So we can learn about Yella, we can learn about all of his coaching. So you can get either masterclasses, which are presentations on the decks that you'll be learning about, that you can refer to. It's like purchasing a readable, watchable, all out fact file of the deck that you're interested in, or you can book one-to-one coaching with these Pokemon pros. So you can see kind of the top coaches, what time zones they're in is coming soon, which I think is a super handy idea. But this website just allows you to get the kind of lowdown from the best of the best, even including some of our lovely community mentors. So you can look at that if you want to kind of pay. There are some free classes, don't get me wrong, but most of the really in-depth content is paid from our lovely community members. So just a quick diversion to show you what exactly that little crown symbol on this page means. So you'll be able to click and see, oh, actually, I think I might want Brent to show me a bit more of Regidrago or Bert, and all of those you'll be able to see immediately on their Limitless page, which is fantastic. So once you've located, obviously, what deck that you'd like to have a look at, or you're just curious of the standings, that's kind of really what you want to see from these pages. You can obviously go, and there are some more statistical, interesting, and card-based results across here as well. And one of my favorite features, you can actually have a little look at the seniors and juniors top 9 there, so you can actually see what everyone was playing, which is great. And you can have a look at what's going on. I always find that the juniors and seniors can be onto something that maybe us masters haven't quite clocked onto, or they're just cooking real hard. And honestly, it's fantastic to be able to see what they're doing as well. They are not to be underestimated. They're going to age up at some point. Now, if you want to look at any cards, decks, or players specifically, you will need to change this little drop down menu there. So that is important to remember as well. So that's if you want to see all of the data from the European and American side of things. Now, one thing that people don't realize is that you can have a look at the Japanese data as well on this website. So if I click tournaments and I click over to City Leagues, that is the code name that cups and kind of league cups go by in Japan. It's essentially their version of League Cups. They're really big events, and they are local events hosted by card shops, typically capped at around 64 players. But remember, now Japan are a couple of sets ahead of us at any given time, so there'll be cards here that we don't have yet. So it's almost a fantastic look ahead at what our meta is going to start looking like eventually. And not only that, but please remember, these are best of 1 tournaments. So let's click, we just had, oh, look at that, yesterday, a Tokyo based event. So here we are, straight away you can see our Caledon de Dunsparce right there. So this is the unreleased over here, our Caledon EX. But again, I can still print proxies of these decks and try them out. But please again, bear in mind, these are best done in a best of 1 format. So sometimes things will change with the decks that make them a little more consistent in our format, which is best of 3. We can also see that a Ceruledge deck did really well, and again, that's our Terrafire Ceruledge, which is again unreleased here in the western kind of side of things. But you can again see all of those lovely cards that are kind of be up and coming, but it doesn't mean that some of the decks aren't already around. Look at this Quad Thorns right there, very typical. And again, pretty much all cards, yes, just having a quick look, but all cards that we already have in our format. So sometimes it's worth taking a peek regardless, but a lot of people don't realize that you can look at the Japanese events and you can have a little sneak peek into what our meta might start to look like once newer cards are released. So that just gives you a little look into that as well. Now, of course, we've mentioned before how you can enter online tournaments like our series, the Pumpkin Weekly, which happens on a Monday night at 7 p.m. British time. If you click on this button, it will allow you to look at the online tournaments. Now, you'll notice that you've moved over to play.limitless.com, which is the website that we run our events on. So this is actually the next 7 days worth of events. So these are the upcoming events. What we want to do is click over to completed, and you can have a look. Now, of course, there are more than just Pokemon on here. We've got One Piece, Digimon, and Pokemon Go, all sorts. So You can edit the tournament filter, or I just look for this S for standard. Now let's look at this slightly bigger one. Here we go. We saw that Josh Frank was our winner from the US on an 8-0 with God of War. And again, I can click on this little button to see his deck list. So once again, you can look at all of the latest and up-to-date information and check the deck lists of these tournaments. If you want the details of the tournament to see whether it was best of 1 or best of 3, you can have a look at the details page as well. You can also look at the metagame. This is one of my favorite pages, actually, is just being able to see exactly how many decks were entered of each kind of archetype. So we see like 2 Cinderace, 2 Venomoth Frostlass, Spicy, some Dialga, Diplin, all sorts. And of course, then we've got our Charizard Pidgeot at the top there with 19, which is interesting to note because it was a lesser played deck in Lille that just happened this weekend. But online, people are starting to respect it again a little bit more. So just having a think about how those might shift in your local meta, but also how that might translate to a larger event, a regionals or an internationals, is also just something to bear in mind. And obviously you can enter these tournaments yourself. Please refer to my previous video on how to do that. We have one coming up this Wednesday. We normally do Mondays, but sometimes Wednesdays when I've been at an event. So those are your 3 main methods of having a look to see exactly what events are coming up, how to see their deck lists, and how to see the results of events that have just happened in the Western world, but also in the Japanese meta, which is super exciting to be able to have these modern statistics on our side. And I am quickly going to mention PokeStats as well. That's ptcgstats.com, who also have some data on these events. They've got the major event data, they have an online series, and so on and so forth. And you can kind of see a couple of League Cup results here. Otherwise, there's no way to see local event data just because it isn't tracked by Pokemon themselves. So when a tournament organizer puts the results of a tournament in, you don't get to see the decks that somebody was playing. So when I put the data in, when I upload a tournament, there is no way for me to put information in about what decks people were playing. So there is no way currently, unless you go to an event or ask a player specifically what their deck list was like or what they were playing at an event locally. So that's for League Cups and League Challenges kind of over here. So there's no real data that you can get on that at the moment. I would recommend obviously like creating an X account or Blue Sky, whatever your kind of social media of choice is. Follow your favorite creators and favorite players, and maybe you'll get a sneaky deck list look at some point. So yeah, I think that's all the advice I have today. Thank you so much for watching, and hopefully this was a helpful resource for people to be able to grab some deck lists and start playing as well. So there's no shame. I've said it again, I'll say it a million times. There's no shame in grabbing a deck list, trying to figure out what your play style is and copying that into BTCG Live and giving it a go, or building it in real life and trying it out with friends. Pokemon is a game that we play for fun, and it is okay to go ahead and use resources that are here for us to utilize to have fun. It's a hobby. We're having fun. Thank you so much, everybody. I will see you next time. Make sure you like and subscribe, please. That would be greatly appreciated. And share this with your friends who might also appreciate this, especially if they're just starting the game. Thank you so much, and I'll catch you next time, either here or sometimes you might catch me at a regional event. See you guys. Bye-bye.